The snow fell in thick curtains across the frozen wasteland of Theox Prime, a planet where survival wasn't a privilege. It was a daily battle against entropy itself. Arya pulled her thermal suit tighter, her breath forming crystalline clouds in the sub-zero atmosphere. She'd been warned about this world. Death World, they called it in the Galactic Council chambers, a place where only the most savage species could thrive. She was here anyway. The human xenobiologist had spent 3 months studying the Vraken, a wolf-like species that stood 7 feet tall on their hind legs, with midnight black fur and eyes that glowed like molten amber. The Galactic Council had classified them as pre-contact hostile, a polite way of saying they'd torn apart the last 2 research teams sent to study them. But Arya had noticed something the others hadn't. The Vraken weren't mindless predators. They had language, hierarchy, culture. They were people. She tracked the pack from a distance, using her scanner to map their movements through the blizzard. That's when she heard it. A high-pitched whine that cut through the howling wind like a blade. Her training kicked in immediately. She knew that sound. Pain. Young. Alone. Arya found the cub half buried in a snowdrift, its left hind leg caught in what appeared to be the remains of a collapsed ice shelf. Blood, dark purple against the white snow, pooled beneath the small creature. It couldn't have been more than the equivalent of 6 or 7 human years old. The cub snarled when it saw her, baring needle-sharp teeth despite its obvious agony. Arya stopped, holding up her hands in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "Easy," she whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't expect it to understand her words, but tone was universal. Slowly, carefully, she approached. The cub snapped at her once, twice, but it was weakening. Arya could see the life draining from those amber eyes. She made her decision. Moving with practiced efficiency, Arya deployed her medical kit. The Vraken physiology was similar enough to baseline mammalian structure. She could work with this. She injected a broad-spectrum analgesic, one she'd modified to account for the Vraken's unique biochemistry. The cub's snarls faded to whimpers. "That's it?" Arya murmured, working quickly to free the trapped leg. The ice had created a compound fracture, bone visible through torn flesh. On any other world, this injury would mean a simple surgery. Here, it meant death, but humans didn't accept death easily. Arya worked for 20 minutes, her fingers going numb despite her suit's heating elements. She set the bone, sealed the wound with synthetic tissue, and wrapped the leg in a stabilizing cast that would dissolve as it healed. The cub had stopped struggling, watching her with those luminous eyes, no longer filled with fear but something else. Curiosity, perhaps. She didn't hear the pack approach until it was too late. One moment she was alone with the cub. The next, she was surrounded by 12 full-grown Vraken, each one capable of tearing her apart with casual ease. At the center stood the largest, a massive male with silver-streaked fur and scars crisscrossing his muzzle. His eyes locked onto hers with predatory intensity. Arya stood slowly, placing herself between the pack leader and the cub. Not aggressive. Not submissive. Just present. The leader, Rokan, she would later learn his name, stepped forward. His lips pulled back, revealing fangs as long as her fingers. The pack circled tighter. Arya's heart hammered against her ribs, but she didn't move. Didn't reach for the plasma pistol at her hip. Didn't run. Running triggered the chase instinct. She'd learned that the hard way. Rokan lowered his massive head, close enough that she could feel his hot breath against her face. He inhaled deeply, scenting her. His growl reverberated through her chest cavity. Then he looked past her at the cub. His cub, she realized. The young Vraken chirped, a sound so incongruously gentle from a species bred for this harsh world. It struggled to stand on 3 legs, the 4th held carefully off the ground. It limped toward Rokan, then looked back at Arya. The cub made another sound, more complex. Not quite words, but communication nonetheless. Rokan's eyes narrowed. He circled Arya, examining her work. His nose traced the edges of the cast, the sealed wound. Then he did something that would fundamentally alter human-Vraken relations for the next century. He pressed his forehead against hers. The pack went silent. Even the wind seemed to still. Through her suit's external microphones, Arya heard Rokan make a sound, deep, resonant, purposeful. The other Vraken responded in kind, their voices rising in a chorus that echoed across the frozen plains. When Rokan pulled back, something had changed in his eyes. Recognition. Respect. Over the following weeks, Arya remained with the pack. They didn't just tolerate her presence, they integrated her. She learned their language, a complex system of growls, body postures, and subtle scent markers. She learned that Rokan was the pack leader, that the cub was his youngest son, that the Vraken valued strength and loyalty above all else. But more than that, she learned they valued compassion. On a world where weakness meant death, where every meal was fought for and every night brought new dangers, the Vraken had built a society around protecting their own. Arya had proven herself, one of their own the moment she'd chosen to save a dying cub, rather than preserve her own safety. 3 months after that first encounter, Arya stood before the Galactic Council with Rokan at her side, the first Vraken to ever leave his homeworld. The council members recoiled in their seats, hands hovering near panic buttons. Rokan ignored them. He fixed his amber gaze on the council speaker and spoke in carefully practiced galactic standard, his accent thick, but his words clear. We are Vraken. We are not primitive. We are not hostile. He glanced at Arya, and something almost like a smile crossed his alien features. We recognize courage, we recognize honor. The human treated my son's wound when she could have fled. She became pack. He looked back at the council, his voice dropping to a growl that carried absolute conviction. She is one of us. And so, we asked, can you say the same of your own? The chamber erupted in chaos. But Arya smiled. Because she understood what most of the galaxy didn't. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology. It was their irrational, illogical, magnificent tendency to help, even when it made no sense, even when it risked everything. Especially then,